Hello, salutations, what it do? This is, of course, the Dr. Gamer back at you with another Loki live discussion and review. So this episode, I gotta say right off the bat, was awesome. The first episode, I know a lot of people liked it. From what I can tell, there wasn't a lot of negative backlash, but I know that some people thought the first episode was a bit slow, a little too much exposition, which I can totally understand. They had to establish kind of the whole world and the TVA and everything like that, so naturally some exposition is needed. Personally, I didn't think it was bad at all. I thought all the exposition was totally necessary, and the episode was good, though not huge action packed. Obviously it was mostly taking place in the TVA, but it had a little bit of action, had some funny moments, and just the dynamic between Loki and Mobius, the whole chemistry with Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson, I thought was incredible. Episode 2, what's up, Genius Button? I completely disagree. I thought episode 2 was much better than episode 1. Hey, what's up, King J? Yeah, I'm in the camp firmly that episode 2 was a lot better than episode 1. Both were, in my opinion, very good episodes, but I loved how episode 2 just took everything and just amped it up. The tension was a lot higher. It was a lot more tense, and the payoff at the end, wow. I loved it. Gabe Fox, you think episode 1 was much better? Yeah, I completely disagree. I loved episode 2. Episode 1 I thought was great as well. I enjoyed it for what it was. Despite the exposition, I thought it was really good, but I thought they took the best parts of episode 1, mainly this buddy cop dynamic between Loki and Mobius, and turned it up, and then added some actual stakes and kind of flipped the table on us. Hey, what's up, Tyverso? Tyverso agrees. So I just go over the episode. For obviously, if you're here, you should know there are going to be a lot of spoilers because we're going to talk about it, but it's almost 6 o'clock, so if you haven't seen the episode by now, it is what it is. But I thought it was great. So it obviously continues from episode 1, where Loki has accepted this gig as a member of the TVA, and he's kind of studying up, and they continue to explore this dynamic between Mobius and Loki, and to the point where Loki and Mobius actually, rather than having sort of this heartfelt bond that we start seeing form in episode 1, Mobius eventually just kind of gets fed up with Loki and just calls him out on the stuff after Loki is brought out into the field after another surprise attack by the variant, that Lady Loki, spoiler alert. You think female Loki blew your mind? Do you agree that Loki is the best MCU series so far? It's too early to call it the best so far, but so far it's really good. Am I going to play Avengers? You can check my schedule. I have my next Avengers stream up on the channel by now, but today is just going to be about Loki. But so I guess I'll address Lady Loki as well, but because I don't think that's actually Lady Loki. So obviously the first trial run of Loki in the field doesn't go very well. and Mobius is still in Loki's corner, but acknowledging that, you know, this isn't going exactly as well. And of course, Ravonna has put more pressure on him because she doesn't believe in this Loki experiment at all. Mobius wants to see it through, but Loki, of course, eventually shows that he's at least worth keeping around when he figures out that the variant Lady Loki is using apocalypses to hide out as a sort of loophole, because her variant energy can't be detected during times when there's an apocalypse. So they eventually track her down using the gum from episode 1, Kablooey, as a clue, and they find her in 2050 at a rocks cart, and there we finally see Loki confront the variant, first through the people that she's controlling, and then eventually face to face, where we see, oh, it's Lady Loki. Well, we assume. I'm going to go into a minute why I don't think it's Lady Loki. So it ends with, of course, Loki getting his ass kicked and Lady Loki setting off her plan, which was planting bombs all through different points in the timeline and triggering Nexus events, which are branches that are caused by the timeline getting ruptured that the TVA can't repair. And Loki, rather than staying around for Mobius and the Minutemen to arrive, he goes to the portal with her, and that sets up some very, very interesting things for the next episodes. Now, Lady Loki, I don't think it's actually Lady Loki for several reasons. So first, there was a clue when she was interacting with Loki through one of the people she was controlling. So she tells him, don't call her Loki, call her Randy, which I thought, okay, that's a little weird, but you know, whatever. But on top of that, she's blind. Now in the comics, Lady Loki is brunette. She has dark hair, and people online were like, why is Lady Loki blind? Blah blah blah. They also calling her ugly, all this other stuff. And I'm like, well, okay, there might be more to it than that, because another character very relevant to the Loki storyline that is blonde in the comics is Enchantress. Now, Enchantress in the comics, the Sylvie Lushton version, was a regular girl in Oklahoma who was granted magical powers by Loki as kind of a joke after the Asgardians settled their new home there, and she eventually became Enchantress, and one of her abilities is controlling other people. And interestingly enough, in the Spanish credits of the show, under the variant, they have her name listed as Sylvie, not variant, not Lady Loki, Sylvie. There's also a casting in the credits for young Sylvie, implying that there's going to be a flashback. So it seems to me that Lady Loki is actually Sylvie Luston, aka Enchantress. And the crown, the crown is an interesting nod to Agent Loki because it's partly cut off. But I do not think this is Loki's. I don't think this is a different version of Loki's mom at all. I think this is in fact Enchantress, and she is probably not. She's probably going to be revealed. Regardless, we're probably going to figure out in the next episode who exactly she is. But I am convinced at this point that she is in fact Enchantress, not a Loki variant. Hey, what's up, Captain Airy? So another interesting thing about this episode, after Enchantress or Lady Loki set off the TVA reset grenades in locations, if you pause it, you can actually see what specific locations that she targeted with those devices. So she targeted Vormir, April 23rd, 2301, which is the planet where the Soul Stone was retrieved, for those that forgot in Endgame. She targeted Asgard in 2004. Obviously Thor's homeworld, and the timing is very interesting. It would effectively negate the events of the first Thor movie. She targeted Sakaar, the junkyard planet where Thor and Loki ended up, along with Hulk and Thor Ragnarok. She targeted Ego, Star-Lord's father's living planet, Titan, the moon where Thanos is from, Hala, the home planet of the Kree, and Xanadar, the home planet of the Nova Corps. So I think these locations were not chosen at random. They obviously will have a significant impact on the timeline, because obviously she wouldn't have targeted them otherwise, and they're creating nexus events from those explosions. But interesting, she chose those very specific places. So I've heard some speculate that maybe we might see different dead MCU characters potentially come back with the multiverse now thrown in. Maybe we'll see Black Widow return. Maybe we'll see different Captain Americas. Who knows at this point? You can kind of have a lot of fun when it comes to the multiverse. Jack, your theory is that Loki will be chasing Lady Loki through timelines that we have seen through the Marvel Cinematic Universe previously, and then meet with Mobius along the way. That's definitely possible. There was a clip in trailer that people first assumed was Loki sitting with Black Widow, and they were on some planet. It looked kind of like Titan, and they were just sitting and chatting, and people assumed it was Widow, but now of course we know it's this Lady Loki variant, or Enchantress as I think it is. So there could definitely be some of that. We know the Vote Loki variant pops up at some point, or maybe it's our Loki. Whatever happens, it's possibly that they run into other Lokis as a result of the devices she set off, and possibly timelines getting altered. I think that's very, very much a possibility. And it's also unclear what exactly Loki's motivation here going forward is. Now, obviously he wanted freedom. He was trying to get assurances from Mobius that if he helped them catch the variant, they would let him live. And he also wanted to get an audience with the Timekeepers, and he didn't get it, any of it. So now that he's on a run, it's kind of harder to see how he can go back if he wants to go back. There is a possibility, though, of course. He could have gone after her with the intent of bringing her in eventually, and cashing in that favor with the TVA, because instead of sticking around and not going to the portal, he could have very well have gotten erased. Cosmic Cube's date of release is already no, it's the release is on the official Crystal Dynamics Twitter account, and I have a couple videos about it. But if Loki had stayed instead of going through the portal, I think there, in all likelihood, he would have gotten himself erased, because they didn't see what happened. All they know is that Loki was with was with 15, and then she was knocked out, and then the bombs went off and everything went absolutely crazy. And for all they know, and they probably wouldn't give Loki benefit of the doubt because someone would have to take the fall for it. So they probably weren't going to listen to Loki and say, "Oh, I totally tried to stop the variant, but I got beat and she escaped." So it's probably, regardless, it's probably the smartest move was going after her, regardless of what his intentions are. Whether he wants to continue his mission and bring her in or team up, the best course was probably going through that portal. Now, he told her that he wanted to team up to take over the TVA. Now, he told Mobius the same thing. So is that actually what he wants, or was he just trying to get her on his side? Hey, Marcus, just hitting the like button. I appreciate it. That like button is very important. It's very underrated. It makes a huge difference on the video, and it's totally free and takes a second. So if you haven't already, hit that like button so that more people can see this video. So yeah, I don't know if you're trolling or not, but I'm confident she is not a recast of Loki's mom. That's not a thing. I'm pretty confident in that she is not Loki's mom. based on her being listed as Sylvie in the credits, I'm pretty confident she is indeed Sylvie Lushton, aka Enchantress. Especially with the powers that she has. I'm pretty confident that's who she is, and not just a Loki variant. Would be interesting though if Loki did run into his mom. There was a potential cameo that some people were pointing out early on when they first arrived on the scene in Wisconsin at the rent fair, and the woman complained that they weren't in costume. It was very interesting that she looked an awful lot like Agatha from, obviously, famous in WandaVision. Now, it wasn't the same actress, but she did look very similar to Katherine Heine and the Agatha character, and she was dressed in at the rent fair, they were dressed in the attire that she would have worn back then. Don't worry about him, Electro. He's not quitting. He's just saying things. He'll never quit this game. He's obsessed with it. But how you doing, Electro? Thank you for stopping by. How'd you like the episode 2? Few people think the first episode was the best one. I tend to think that episode 2 is better, especially the much higher stakes in the action. I thought the difference between this one and WandaVision is that the first several episodes of WandaVision were basically setups, whereas Loki, we thought, all right, the first episode setting this up, and maybe we're going to get a slowish build, but they just flipped the table on us in episode 2. Like I thought we were going to get more buddy cop kind of deal with Loki and Mobius, and instead that thing got completely turned on its head with Loki ending up escaping the TVA. But I personally would have loved some more Loki and Mobius quality time, because it's so much fun, especially when they have these heart-to-hearts and they kind of get into their motivations. Like, obviously Mobius knows Loki very well and is not afraid to call him out on the fact that despite all of his bluster, all the stuff he does that's bad, he really is very insecure and has an inferiority complex. It's very true. But Loki did get Mobius a bit when they were discussing the nature of sort of existence and whether or not free will is a thing, because Loki was making fun of the whole creation story of the TVA, that 3 space lizards created all of them and are managing the timeline and created everyone in the TVA to do that work. And Mobius of course pointed out how ridiculous Loki's story is. He's the son of a frost giant, born and raised, who was raised in the mythical land of Asgard. You know, so it's all kind of silly when you think about it. But then Loki wisely pointed out that it really just comes down to belief, and that based on Mobius's own logic, free will kind of doesn't exist. You're gonna wait until all the episodes are done before watching? Not really into the MCU side of Marvel? Oh, that's interesting. So you basically only are into Marvel for what, the comics and the games? But you still do watch the MCU? That's interesting. I'm the exact opposite. I enjoy the MCU, especially the Infinity Saga. I thought they really cracked the code on making comic book films and how they should be. Whereas DC in the past, you would have standalone comic films. Attempts to have universes and sequels usually fell flat, but you would have some one-off comic movies that were really good, many that were terrible, and MCU kind of finally cracked that code, and it made me appreciate the MCU a lot more. Because before the MCU, I liked Marvel a bit. You know, I mainly just liked the X-Men and Spider-Man, but I was more into DC than anything. But now I definitely enjoy the MCU, though the quality I'm noticing in Phase 4 is probably going to go down. MCU is the Diet Coke of Marvel. I don't know about that. The comics have, from what I can tell, the comics have gone pretty downhill in recent years. And outside of Insomniac Spider-Man, there aren't really a lot of critically acclaimed Marvel games. But a lot of comics they're drawing from, especially for this show, are definitely interesting. I noticed that you used to steal Marvel comics from some. Why were you stealing Marvel comics? It's wrong to steal. I have never stolen, especially comic books. I got into Marvel comics because my cousin had them. Yeah, my cousin actually had a bunch of X-Men comics. That's what got me into it. I love the X-Men immediately, especially the animated series. That was the best. But outside of the weird Loki's mom thing, where do you guys think the series is heading? It's weird that there's like a third of the way through. You just read pre 2009 comics. That makes more sense. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird that we're like a third of the way through the Loki series already. It's only 6 episodes, so I guess I should have expected episode 2 to significantly ramp up the action from episode 1. That's probably why they had to put so much exposition into episode 1, because the TVA, I mean, that's a huge thing they have to explore. They had to explain what exactly the TVA is. They had to show all the notable players. They had to establish their power and why they're relevant, and then they had to establish the main threat of the series. So it's no wonder that some people thought there was too much information. But if it's only 6 episodes, then you got to have at least one episode that sets everything up. You think Loki died defending that multiverse and they need him? It was never about the timeline, but about taking him from one to another without them knowing? What do you mean? The Loki? What do you mean? The lady? You talk about the lady Loki or the current Loki? The current Loki that's helping the TVA escape the timeline. And according to the TVA, that wasn't supposed to happen. Apparently there are a lot of Lokis that end up being variants, though. It's definitely not his mother. It's definitely not. His mother is not a Loki variant. That's running around hatching a plan. Now, the interesting thing, though, is that the timekeepers are supposedly all powerful. She pretended to be Loki to retrieve. She didn't retrieve him, though. That's the thing. She didn't retrieve him. She specifically said her actions weren't about him. She was targeting the Minutemen and stealing their tech so that she could plant those bombs across the different timelines. The only reason Loki ended up even finding her is because the TVA recruited him in order to track her down, and Loki decided to play ball. But she made it clear her actions were not about him, and he could have easily just not followed her at all. She made it clear she wasn't interested in teaming up. Her actions weren't about him. Yeah, it's definitely not his mom. There's nothing about her actions that indicate that that's his mom. On top of the fact that, again, in the credits, her name is Sylvie. The timekeepers know everything, so they know she's Loki. That's the thing. The timekeepers don't know everything. So the timekeepers presume that they say the timekeepers know everything because they're managing the timeline, but Mobius and the Minutemen, they don't know everything. They know everything about individual people that are on the correct timeline, but they don't know everything. The timekeepers are supposed to be the all-knowing ones, but Mobius admitted that he's never actually seen them before. Sylvie trying to restore Asgard. It's possible one of the bombs that she planted was in Asgard in 2004, which was around the time of the first Thor movie. And doing that could drastically alter those events, including the death of Loki's mother. You forget the Infinity Stones show all the different futures. They don't show all the different futures. You can use the Time Stone to see a lot of different futures, but remember, The TVA don't need the time stone or any of them. They literally use the Infinity Stones as paperweights. They're completely useless in the TVA because apparently the timekeepers are monitoring everything, and the TVA employees themselves have files on everybody and can read exactly where their entire life, everything they ever said, everything they ever done, as long as they're on the grand timeline. So they don't really need Infinity Stones to do that at all. That's why Infinity Stones are effectively useless to the TVA. But it is interesting that the timekeepers, who are supposed to be just all powerful and controlling and keeping everything in balance, aren't really intervening. Apparently no one but Ravenna even knows what they look like. You know, she assured Mobius that they're very, very interested in the Loki case, more so than she's seen them before. But Mobius is basically taking it on faith because he doesn't know what they look like. He's never met them. So no wonder he's hesitant to try to grant Loki an audience with them, because he hasn't even gotten an audience with them. So it's possible that, and we know that Ravenna is hiding some stuff. So it's possible that the timekeepers, the lizards, aren't actually controlling things at all. It's possible that, say, Kang is running things and is totally okay with the actions that Lady Loki or Enchantress are taking because he wants the chaos. Because we know Kang is going to be in the MCU. He's already been cast. We know he's connected to Ravenna. It's possible that he's really pulling the strings here. You don't like the idea of Infinity Stones just laying around in piles? Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, that definitely rubs some people the wrong way, because, you know, they built up the whole MCU on the Infinity Saga. You know, Loki almost destroyed Earth and over with the power of an Infinity Stone. You know, Thanos wiped out half the universe. People died. They had to invent a time machine to fix things using the Infinity Stones. Like, the Infinity Stones were this huge deal. They were so powerful and all this other stuff. And then in the first episode of Loki, we find out that they're, to the TVA, they're effectively paperweights. They're completely useless. They're just sitting around in desk drawers because they're completely redundant. The TVA don't need them at all, so they have no use for them. So I understand why people would be upset with that, because it kind of trivializes the whole ordeal. But at the same time, it does very effectively establish just how powerful the TVA as an organization are. And it would make sense that they don't really value the Infinity Stones, given what exactly is in their job description. You know, it'd be weird if the Infinity Stones were relevant to them, despite the fact that they're essentially an organization that controls an entire the whole timeline, and is managing to stave off a multiverse. Thanos is the smartest guy. He understood balance in the universe, and no, Thanos actually was the stupidest guy. His plan was complete stupidity. Thanos deciding that the only way to solve overpopulation was mass murder is one of the stupidest plans I've ever heard. Especially once he got all the Infinity Stones. Like, instead of, say, using the Reality Stone to increase the amount of resources, he just falls into this whole overpopulation myth and decides, no, the easiest way is just to wipe everyone out. We watch it and look at what actual file. So no one on the TVA could possibly get corrupted, grab all those stones, and go out and be a god with them. Not if everyone is being monitored. Like that's the thing. There's kind of fail safes in that regard, because from what we can tell, everyone in the TVA is a textbook bureaucrat. They do everything pretty much by the book. When Loki's reading a file of himself, there is nothing about Thanos in the file. It's when he's reading the file. If you're talking about in episode 2, he reads the file. It's the destruction of Asgard, and it shows that there's no variant energy detected. He didn't read his file when he realized he was dead. He watched the slideshow of Thanos killing him, so that which showed him where he was, where his actions would lead him if he had stayed in this timeline and kept doing this thing. I don't know what that has to do with Thanos being smart. It's completely irrelevant. But yeah, the TVA, if they were all created by the timekeepers and they presumably all have files themselves because they're on the grand timeline, their actions are in accordance with the timeline, then there's always someone that knows what they're doing. Yes, Loki realized that he dies. Yes, a version of Loki, but all of the Lokis aren't dead. Because they aren't already dead. We saw in episode 2 that there are different versions of Loki. And Loki apparently is like the most common variant. And this Loki is still very much alive. But he knows the Loki that invaded Earth in 2012 and then proceeded to do all the actions of the MC movies. His path ends in death. I agree it's not Loki. It's not his mother either. It's Enchantress. It's not his mom. It's Enchantress. His mom is not a variant. If his mom became a variant, they wouldn't have mistaken his mom for Loki. Use the stone to go back. The stones are useless. The TVA already established that the Infinity Stones are completely useless. If you're trying to travel back in time, you're better off using the TVA technology. The stones don't even work in the TVA. It's not Loki's mom. I guarantee you it's not Loki's mom. Loki's mom is very much not the variant. That I can assure you. No, because the personalities aren't even the same. It doesn't make any sense. Your theory doesn't even make sense. Based on all the evidence, it's either Lady Loki or it's Enchantress. Dead ice giantess corpse. What about it, Captain? What about it? It's definitely a weird theory for sure, but based on everything I've dug up so far, I think Lady Loki is actually Sylvie. If they do reveal that it's Loki's mom, then cookie for you. That's quite a take, but I would actually be stunned because it wouldn't even make sense in the context of the story for Loki's mom to be a variant. How would that even have come about? You love when Loki became a genius for a minute and discovered the hiding in the rat. Yeah, I thought that was very clever. I thought it was very good. I really enjoyed the scene. Like that's why I was really kind of looking forward to another episode of, or an episode or two of just Loki and Mobius together, solving crimes, going on adventures. I loved it. Loki, instead of using his intelligence to try to scheme and lie and do something that's inevitably going to blow up in his face, he just sat down and got his detective on and figured out, after being denied the opportunity to read about the beginning or end of time, figured out, oh, the variant is exploiting a loophole, a kind of blind spot that the TVA didn't know about, by hiding in apocalyptic events. Because if the timeline gets erased, because everyone in the area dies, then your actions have no consequences. I thought that was very cool. And I loved how excited Mobius got when Loki proved that his theory was correct, and he just couldn't wait to test it out and go on the adventure. Thought that was very cute. Clearly he has a soft spot for Loki, despite Loki being Loki. He obviously sees something in Loki, and I think it's similar to what we see in Loki. You know, he's not a typical villain, especially not after the growth that he undergoes after causing the death of his mother. There's definitely redeemable qualities about Loki, and it's why we kind of root for him, you know, even though he's a villain. You know, not while he was trying to destroy New York, but subsequently when Loki's portrayed after the Battle of New York, it's much more nuanced, and I think, and they made his character a lot more complex, which I thought was cool. Loki got his powers from her because he adopted. Yeah, Loki learned magic from her, I should say. Yeah, he learned magic. She taught him magic, but she's not the variant, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, but it's not her though. That's the thing. It's not his mom. How would she have even become a variant in the first place? She's in Asgard the whole time. And the version that Loki knows dies. So how and why would she become a variant specifically targeting the TVA? So they share the same powers. Well, no, they share some of the same powers. Well, not Loki and the variant. Loki and the variant don't share powers at all that we've seen. The variant has the ability to control people, not only by touching them, but the people that she's controlling can transfer that control to other people by touching them. Loki doesn't have that ability. So they're not the same. Loki's a shapeshifter. That's how he can pretend to be others. The variant controls people. That's how she can do that. When she's running around, she's using a disguise. She's not shape-shifting. She runs around in a disguise the whole time instead of shape-shifting. She tricks the Minutemen and everyone else by controlling people. She was targeting the TVA. She was ambushing. What do you mean she wasn't targeting? Her whole plan involved targeting the TVA. She set ambushes for them, killed them, and took their technology so she can take the bombs. So she should take the reset devices and set them off at different points of the timeline. She didn't use any stones. He just make it. Now is this? Oh, I get it. Are you reading from your Loki fan fiction? Is that it? 2 episodes in, you already have some Loki fan fiction you're working on. Genius button. Now you're saying she's using Infinity Stones and wasn't targeted TV. That one's the weirdest take. How was she not targeting the TVA when the first 2 episodes were about her targeting the TVA? And it ends with her using the TVA's own technology to blow up multiple timelines, causing multiple Nexus events. Yeah, I'm sure we'll learn more about her in the next episode, since Loki followed her through the portal. But no, she did not. I'm confident. I'm pretty confident at this point that we're gonna learn in the next episode that she is in fact Enchantress. She also doesn't need the stones at all. She has all of the TVA's technology. She had all the tech the Minutemen had, except the batons. She could travel to any point in time. There's probably even a function on a device that lets her see different timelines. Classic Cap tomorrow. That one's possible, sure. She used the gum. The kablooey. She used the kablooey because she was hiding out at the rocks cart. That was her hideout. No, Loki wasn't even, when they found the kablooey, Loki wasn't even recruited into the TVA. Loki didn't realize it. Rewatch the episode. Mobius found the kablooey clue. Mobius realized the kablooey was a clue. Loki wasn't there for that investigation. No, in the first episode, Mobius, when we first met Mobius talked to the kid and found the kablooey gum. And then in episode 2, after Loki brought up his theory about them hiding about the variant hiding among apocalypses, he remembered the gum. He didn't leave it for him because Loki never found it. Loki never finds it. Not only your theory has a lot of holes. She didn't leave it for Loki because Loki never finds the gum. And Mobius finds the gum, and Mobius figures out the clue. She can travel through timelines, but she has no way of seeing all of the timelines. She had no way of knowing that Loki was going to be recruited. She didn't know that he was going to become a variant. She definitely didn't know that he was going to be recruited to the TVA instead of executed. She even says this when they met. She says how impressive it was that he was able to get the TVA to gain his trust. But he didn't see it. Like you keep saying, she knew he would see it. He literally didn't see it. Mobius saw it, not Loki. Mobius saw the gum. Loki wasn't at the crime scene with the kablooey. He was at the only crime scene he went to was in Wisconsin in 1985. He didn't go to the one at the church where Mobius found the gum. She has a way. She did not. Yeah, she wasn't there. She was there. Loki wasn't there. Mobius was there. and she has no way of seeing Loki's future anyway because Loki's a variant. So it doesn't make sense. Possibly only the timekeepers could see Loki's actions if they're as powerful as they say. The variants veer off of the timeline. But you don't understand that she had no way to predict Loki's actions because once Loki took the Tesseract and left New York in 2012, he disappeared from the grand timeline once the TVA picked him up. So even if she had the Infinity Stones, which she doesn't, she can't see the future. That's not, you have no evidence. She even if she had it, you said she used an Infinity Stone to see the future. Even if she used the Infinity Stone, she could only see the grand timeline. She couldn't see a variant's time actions, because if she could see Loki's future as a variant, that means Loki would have never gotten one over on the TVA, because the TVA would be able to see the same thing. The reason why Loki was able to get the better of them is because he's a variant. Once he stopped being a variant, he stopped being predictable. Once he became a variant, they never met in the future. In the future, Loki's dead. That doesn't make any sense. Loki's dead in the future. He's killed by Thanos in the future. That's why he's a variant, because this version of Loki, instead of dying in the future, left New York in 2012 and then is immediately picked up by the TVA, and now is helping them track down the variant. The variant, even if the variant saw that timeline, all she would see is Loki getting killed by Thanos in the end. Yeah, Doctor Strange said he could see millions of different futures. He can see millions of different futures, but it's still part of the grand, it still would be part of the grand timeline. He's not looking across multiverses. He's looking at different possible futures. The time stone didn't give him the ability to see through the multiverses, because there's only the grand timeline. That's it. The possible different futures are all part of the grand timeline. So everything Doctor Strange saw is the same stuff that the TVA could observe as well. So if she saw that, she would not see any of the things Loki's doing with the TVA, because once Loki's with the TVA, he's out of the grand timeline. That's the whole point of a variant and why they're dangerous, because the variants leave the grand timeline so that they're no longer predictable. She's a variant because she's off the grand timeline. If what you're saying was correct, they would have caught her already, because they would be able to predict what she's going to do. But because she's a variant like Loki, you can't see her future or her present. So your theory is completely wrong. Props for creativity though, for sure. But Loki, she's not Loki's mom. She's not using the time stone. She's not seeing the future. That's not, none of this is correct. Hello, Elevators Not Worthy. That is a very interesting name. What's up? How'd you enjoy the episode? And which did you like, episode 1 or episode 2? Which do you think was better? I'm still in the camp that episode 2 was the superior episode. You really like this episode? Yeah, I was a big fan of it. So I totally agree with you there. I thought I thought this episode was definitely a step up. It had a lot of the same stuff that I liked in episode 1, mainly the dynamic between Mobius and Loki. That's, in my opinion, so far the best part of the show. But then they have that, you know, crazy bombshell ending where Lady Loki, or Enchantress, who I think that's Enchantress, not Lady Loki, blows up multiple timelines and then Loki escapes, which means no more buddy cop sort of dynamic with Owen Wilson, at least in the next episode. Unfortunately, but it does make things a lot more interesting. What makes that specifically look different from the others is he sees his wrongdoing. I mean, it doesn't make him, it could potentially make him different from the Lokis that the other variants that Mobius showed him in episode 2. But the Loki that we know, it doesn't make him different from that at all, because the Loki we know went through all that character growth and ended up dying trying to protect Thor. The Loki in the show hasn't gone through that, but so he's still kind of in his I'm Loki, I'm trying to control everything phase, but he's getting a little bit of that character growth because he saw what the results of his actions were. You don't think she's Lady Loki? I think it's the version of Enchantress that Loki made. That's exactly my position. I think she is 100% Enchantress. Her credit, she's even listed as Sylvie in the credits. There's a young Sylvie, and she's listed in the Spanish credits as Sylvie. So I think it's definitely Sylvie Lushton. I think it's definitely Sylvie Lushton. And we're gonna, I think when Loki meets up with her in episode 3, which will be the halfway mark of the season, she's going to say that her name, she's going to clarify that the reason why she doesn't want to be called Loki is because her name is Sylvie Lushton. Yep, totally agree. She may have a different origin story, but for the MCU, but I think it's essentially going to be the same. The reason why they show Loki actions is because Loki was digging through, because remember in episode 1 he was convinced that the whole thing was fake or some kind of illusion. Loki's mom gave him the same Loki's mom did not give him kablooey. What are you talking about? You're literally just making stuff up now. Loki's mom did not give him kablooey gum as a child. Where on earth are you getting that from? You're saying when Loki was a child, his mom traveled to 2050 just to buy gum from the Rock's cart and then came back to Asgard just to give it to Loki? What are you talking about? Maybe. Because we got a list. There's a list of all the timelines that she targeted, all the places that she targeted with the bombs, and Vormir was one of them. Vormir in the year 2301. She also targeted Asgard around the first Thor movie, Sakaar, Ego, Titan, Hala, and Xanadar. But we're talking about the MCU. In the MCU, Loki's mom doesn't give him candy. There, he specifically mentions in episode 2 that they don't have candy on Asgard. You're at work and the whole deal is crazy with the time bombs. So yeah, totally. Especially I'm looking at it from what is happening in the show standpoint. What you're saying makes no sense. It's not about her not aging. It's about her having to travel down to Earth and then travel into 2050 specifically for gum. Makes no sense. Your theory makes no sense. Someone or 616 in a mysterious place. Doctor Strange is taking a nap, ignoring all his problems. Oh, he's about to have a lot. Yeah, I'm pretty confident at this point why the Doctor Strange sequel is called the Multiverse of Madness, because of all the, not only is Wanda herself a Nexus being, but Enchantress has created multiple potential Nexus events with all the bombings. Vormir, Asgard. It'll be interesting to see why she targeted all these places. On Earth is gum. There's no gum on Asgard. They had Loki had this dynamic with Mobius. They had this conversation when they were talking about candy. He said they don't have candy on Asgard. They have fruits, they have nuts, they don't have candy. Well, what happened to Vision pre-Infinity War? Went into the TVA. If the Infinity Stones don't work there, would he just die on the spot? If he went into the I'm not sure he would die on the spot, but he would presumably die if he went through that metal detector. So the female Loki is enchanted. That is my theory. Yes, people immediately assumed it was Lady Loki because they were calling the Loki variant Loki, and she had the crown. But if you look at all the clues, she seems to be Enchantress. She told Loki not to call her Loki. She's blonde, like Enchantress is in the comics, and she's listed in the credits as Sylvie. And Sylvie Lushton is the second Enchantress, I believe, in the comics. So I think she'll be revealed in episode 3 to actually be Sylvie Lushton and not an actual variant of Loki. I think that's the most likely outcome here. But I'm not sure if Vision would immediately die. He can still function without an Infinity Stone, as we saw in WandaVision. But he would presumably get completely disintegrated if he went through that metal detector that Loki went through when he was first checked in. Because they said it specifically destroys anyone that's born a machine. So he probably wants to avoid that one. But yeah, I definitely think she's Enchantress. If Loki's taking the Tesseract wasn't in the timeline, and Steve and Tony going back in the 70s wasn't supposed to happen as well. Oh, apparently it was supposed to happen. Loki, Tony and Steve going to the 70s. They said all the actions of the Avengers were supposed to happen because the Avengers ended up setting everything right where they were supposed to be. But the reason why Loki became a variant is because he completely left the timeline with the Tesseract, which had huge implications and changes on the timeline. When the Avengers went back in time, they specifically tried to avoid doing anything different. They took the Infinity Stones but then Steve put them back. This is how the Spider-Verse was created in the MCU. Wasn't it when Thanos, didn't they say that Thanos snapping did that? Do you think Kang is behind the TVA? I actually do think Kang, that's a great that you brought it. I think I brought this possibly up in episode 1 when I did the episode 1 stream. But yeah, I think Kang the Conqueror is actually running the TVA. Maybe the timekeepers started the TVA, but I think Kang is currently the one in charge. It would explain why Loki is able to do what he's doing, and the variant is able to completely escape the Minutemen. I think it makes sense if Kang is actually currently running the TVA and is trying to start a multiversal war. Yeah, because in the comics, Kang loves Ravonna, so it's possible, it's very possible that they have a whole thing together. It's also possible that she doesn't know. That's definitely a possible scenario. It's possible that she doesn't even know what the timekeepers are up to, and she's basically trying to project confidence on everyone else, but she's also in the dark. That's also possible. In WandaVision, the White Vision was able, the White Vision, once he got the memories, he was basically able to act like normal Vision. Yeah, I hear Kang is supposed to be in Ant-Man 3. He's already been cast, and he's going to be in an upcoming movie. So we know he's in the MCU. And we can pretty much assume that there's going to be a multiversal war or something of it. There's going to be madness. We literally have a movie coming up called Multiverse of Madness, and the TVA already established that in this episode that once the Nexus event goes red, they can't fix the timeline. So they're not going to be able to fix these branches that Sylvie created. The producer doesn't. Okay. Well, now the producer probably now that's funny because the writer of WandaVision didn't know who Mephisto was, but I'm sure they know who Kang is. They did in fact ask Kang already. It's the guy from what was that show? We want to get Secret Wars. It's possible. It's definitely possible. I'm hearing Secret Wars based on rumors and leaks is a possibility. But they already cast Kang as the dude from Lovecraft Country. So Kang is in the MCU. So the writers and producers would have no excuse to not know who Kang is. Kang is in fact in the MCU already. He's already been cast. he's already been cast. So we know he's in the MCU for sure. We're not gonna have that situation pop up again. Probably won't get Mephisto again in Loki, but we could definitely possibly get Kang. Yeah, that one was rough. Like that's rough when you have. That's part of the reason why I was a bit worried about the future of the MCU. And why I'm so far pleasantly surprised with how Loki is going, because they're hiring writers that not only aren't familiar with the source material, don't actually like reading the source material. Like I was reading an interview with, I think she was a WandaVision writer. She was talking, Schaefer, I think her name is. She was talking about how she doesn't like reading comics. She doesn't understand how to read them. Like apparently she has a hard time figuring out how to read the panels, which, why would you hire a person like that to write a comic book based show? But whatever. So I'm definitely concerned about that, but I am so far surprised that Loki's been as good as it is. Kang sounds like he would likely be the big bad. Yeah. Because they have to make the Eternals relevant. They have to come up with a reason why they're relevant now. So a multiversal war makes sense. And if Kang is manipulating time on the scale of being able to run the basically run the TVA, then that definitely makes him a very relevant big bad. Even patiently wait for Galactus and the Fantastic Four. It's going to be it's definitely going to be a while. I don't even know if they're going to bring Galactus in for phase 4, because I think they're going to, I'm pretty sure Kang is going to be the big bad. I think Kang is going to be the Thanos of the phase 4. So they're probably, and if that ends up being the case, then the Fantastic Four, they'll probably bring Doom. They probably just play it safe and bring in Doctor Doom or someone else more obscure. You've seen someone say Keanu Reeves' name, but that's a thumbs down. Doctor Doom too early. Well, the Fantastic Four movie is quite a ways away, so we'll have to see about that. It's not on the slate for this year, or I believe next year. Keanu Reeves, yeah, I don't know about that, but I do want to see Henry Cavill join the MCU. I'm hearing that that's certainly a possibility with how Warner Brothers is treating him. It'd be interesting if he gets a role in the MCU. Where is TVA? Where exactly is TVA? I'm not sure if they have where their exact headquarters is in the universe. Seeing Chris Evans like Cat makes you look at Human Torch completely. Yeah, it's so weird that Chris Evans was Human Torch and Jessica Alba was Invisible Woman. That was a weird one. That was a pretty fun movie though. I wonder if they'll bring Chris Evans back with this whole multiversal stuff. After they introduce the Fantastic Four, I wonder if they'll have like alternate versions and we'll see a cameo from Chris Evans as Human Torch. I think that'd be pretty funny as a callback. We could even see that in the Deadpool movie. You know, we all know Deadpool and breaking the fourth wall and going through time is a thing. So maybe we'll see stuff like that. That'd be pretty funny. See how they have some fun with the whole idea of a multiverse thing. That'd be pretty interesting. Mainly, I just want to see the X-Men. I want to see another really good X-Men movie, MCU style. We deserve it, especially after Dark Phoenix. We deserve. Oh, don't forget New Mutants. We deserve a really good X-Men movie. I'm just not as confident in the MCU of delivering one, but I think they could definitely do a better job than the garbage that Fox crapped out the last few years. Because my goodness, was New Mutants and Dark Phoenix bad. They were terrible. So hopefully Tyversal gets his Rogue appearance, because I too would love a proper portrayal of Rogue on the big screen, even on TV. Do you think they'll see a Civil War type film? X-Men versus Avengers? I don't know. Do the X-Men fight the Avengers? What's happening in the shop tomorrow? We'll have to see, Chris. We'll have to see. Wolverine, you hope, is short and stocky the way he is in the comics. He was good, but he was the opposite. Yeah, he was very tall. Yeah, I like the actress. She was in True Blood. I don't like her as Rogue. Anna Paquin, no sugar. Yeah, she wasn't even Cajun. She wasn't Cajun at all. Yeah, I love Anna Paquin. I don't like her as Rogue. I thought that was a poor casting choice all around. It's like whoever wrote that movie had no frame of reference to who Rogue was. The casting, everything was off. That was a bad one. I agree. I do hope we hear some Sugar, and if she appears in the MCU, that will that would be pretty awesome. That's the Rogue I knew. That's the only Rogue I know. Growing up as a fan of the X-Men animated series, the original X-Men animated series. The modern one, when she was like a kind of an emo teenager, not as much, but the original one, yeah, that's the one. Do I think Kang will have different variants? Actually, no, I don't think Kang is going to have a variant. In theory, he should have variants, but then he can control time, so well, maybe he doesn't. Rogue is your everything. Put a Rogue skin on Captain Marvel in the game. You just don't want Captain Marvel. You just want Captain Marvel replaced. Another variant could appear in Ant-Man 3. I think there's just the one Kang. I think they're setting him up as they're potentially setting him up as being extremely powerful enough to manipulate time on a universal scale and fool everyone into thinking that the timekeepers are still running the TVA. So it would make sense if he didn't have variants running around, given his potential power set. Is there a live actress that you would want to play Rogue Tyversal in a potential X-Men MCU appearance? You just wanted to kill Brie Larson. Because I have to warn you, based on the direction they're going, you're probably not going to get the portrayal of Rogue that you're hoping for. Like when I think of Rogue, I think of the original X-Men animated series and her comic book runs, her classic comic runs. I don't think they're going to go where you think there is. I don't think we're getting I don't think we're getting a hot Rogue. I think they're going to have some kind of postmodern interpretation of Rogue if she does appear. She'll probably be a troubled teenager. She won't have the accent. She'll be. I don't think we're going to get the seasoned Rogue that you're hoping for. I should warn you about that. Phase 4 of the MCU is shaping up to be pretty woke compared to what we got with the Infinity Saga. So things like casting attractive people is probably not going to be a thing. I know that's the main reason you want to see Rogue Tyversal. You're thinking she's going to be hot, but I'm warning you now, if we do get Rogue, that's probably not going to be the case. Which is unfortunate. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that the MCU takes a couple L's in the box office and critically, and decide to take a couple more steps back and start getting back into what made people love the MCU in the first place. But there might be some casualties along the way. Not Megan. Oh, definitely not. No, not Megan Fox. Yeah, I'm not thinking of a Rogue either. But I don't think you're thinking in the right direction. They'll probably make Rogue black or Asian. like, you're forgetting that angle too. Like you're thinking of the animated version. They're probably gonna make diverse Rogue. Do I think the MCU is setting up the Midnight Suns? Probably getting a chubby Rogue, yeah. Yeah, there's gonna be a lecture about fat shaming in there somewhere. They're definitely going to do something weird with Rogue. Seeing if there's any leaks about the Midnight Suns. Actually, they are making it. They are indeed making it. I just Googled it. Apparently, Marvel does have plans to make a Midnight Suns movie. That project is apparently in the works. You're more focused on why Marvel shows are focusing on witches and the devil. We're not focusing on the devil. The devil is Mephisto, and the writer of WandaVision had no idea who Mephisto was. You'll boycott the MCU. Focus fat. I'm telling you, she's going to be a chubby LGBTQIA youth who's insecure about herself. She doesn't say sugar. She's actually from Connecticut. Like, you're not gonna recognize her. You're like, that's not Rogue. You're gonna be pretty mad. They're gonna do. Hopefully, that's why I'm hoping that the MCU takes a couple L's with some of these projects, and Disney decides to dial back on the wokeness a bit, and stop trying to force it. I definitely would if they bring in Rogue just to ruin her. Yeah, for sure. But I think they definitely have to take a couple L's before. So I think it's definitely possible that we'll get some rewrites if some of the movies they have coming up flop. The girl from Hairspray. Oh my goodness. That I could actually see him doing it too. That would be so funny. Or they might not even. If I were you, I would hope that they hold off on the X-Men for a while and kind of get these MCU projects out the way first, so we can see them flop, and then Kevin Feige decides to pivot, or Disney forces them to pivot. And that's definitely possible. Like I think Eternals is going to be a huge failure. I think Eternals is going to be not only the worst Marvel movie in the MCU, I think it's going to be the worst performing one as well. I think Shang-Chi is probably going to be underwhelming, and I think it's very possible that Thor: Love and Thunder also is a critical and commercial failure. I think that's definitely possible. I think that's definitely on the table. And some of their shows could end up being not well received. Like I think She-Hulk is going to be a good show. I think Hawkeye is probably going to be decent. I think Miss Marvel could go either way. Ever since Stan Lee died, they started to cancel culture moving around. Yeah. That's why I was surprised that Loki is as good as it's been. Obviously Loki is very clearly a feminist leaning show, but so far it hasn't really affected the quality of the story, which I hope definitely continues, because I definitely had high hopes for the Loki show, and I would hate to see it get dragged down unnecessarily by bad writing and forced politics. Well, the Marvel games, at least Spider-Man is on. The Spider-Man games are fine, but yeah, Marvel's Avengers is struggling a bit. Guardians of the Galaxy looks promising. Future Revolution looks really good, even though it's a mobile game. So Stanley, yes, yeah, I definitely don't think they would have they would have tried nearly as much if Stan Lee was around, but maybe they would. They would probably try to cancel though. It would probably look really bad if they tried to cancel Stan Lee, because Stan Lee has a ton of goodwill. So yeah, there's probably some merit to that. But wasn't, after seeing Gamora in the game, the MCU Gamora needs a haircut or a different actor. Yeah, the game Gamora looks so much better than the MCU interpretation, for sure. You want to see more open world Marvel games? Marvel Spider-Man gonna be sitting on a rainbow web. And now, if there's one thing Insomniac knows how to do, it's make a great game. So I'm not worried about it at all. I'm not worried about Insomniac. They know how to make a great Spider-Man game. That's the Insomniac can't miss right now. I'm not worried about them. But I do want to see more open world. I want to see more open world superhero games in general. I know, especially on console. I know Marvel Future Revolution is an open world game, but it's a mobile game, and I don't know if it's ever going to come to console. I want a console next gen open world Marvel or DC game, or both. I actually, Marvel and DC. I would gladly watch both. Definitely want to play both. Definitely want more DC. I feel like we're going to get a pretty good dose of DC once Suicide Squad and Gotham Knights comes out, but I want more. There aren't enough. I feel like there aren't enough DC games, and I feel like the only DC games that are made by the exact same company. And yet you still love Marvel's Avengers. Despite its flaws, you just can't stay away. I understand James Biden. It's okay. It's okay to admit it. You're never going to quit this game. Yeah, so any predictions for next week in Loki? I'm thinking, well, all my expectations from the first one have been thrown off. TLDR, what Easter egg did you miss? Iron, you missed a lot. there are a ton of Easter eggs in Loki, but I guess the most important ones potentially for the plot is Lady Loki is probably not Lady Loki. Lady Loki is probably Enchantress. But people just assumed it was Lady Loki. Reason being, she told Loki not to call her Loki. She's blonde, just like Enchantress in the comics. And in the credits, there's a child actress who's playing young Sylvie, and in the Spanish credits they list her as Sylvie instead of the variant. So the assumption is that she's actually Sylvie Lushton, who in the comics was given powers by Loki and became known as Enchantress. Gamora's supposed to be the deadliest woman in the galaxy if she's there's a love interest. Yeah, like at best they made her like a tsundere and just played her off of Star-Lord. But yeah, she definitely doesn't have the same brutal badassery as we've seen in the game. She's not Loki, but claimed. Yeah, my money's definitely on Enchantress at this point. They are all being lied to. That I do agree. I think Ravena is definitely hiding something important about the Timekeepers. I don't think the space lizards are controlling. I'm convinced that Kang is controlling the TVA instead of the space lizards. She needs a haircut and red dye. Maybe she'll get that look in Guardians 3. It's definitely not Loki's mom. we established this. Yeah, I'm pretty confident at this point she's Sylvie Lushton. The other Easter egg you probably missed was the actual places that she blew up. She blew up when she sent those reset grenades to different points in the timeline. She actually sent them to very interesting places. She sent them to Vormir, where the Soul Stone was in Endgame, Asgard during the time of the first Thor movie, Sakaar, the planet Ego, Star-Lord's dad, Titan, Thanos's world, the moon of Thanos's world, Hala, where the Kree were, the home planet of the Kree, and Xandar, the home planet of the Nova Corps. So interesting that she chose those places to blow up. She needs black paint around the eyes too. It'd be pretty cool if for Guardians of the Galaxy 3, if the Guardians of the Galaxy game does well, they decide to change up Gamora's look a bit for the third one. Because I definitely think they do. Especially if Guardians of the Galaxy hits. I want to see some changes in the MCU to reflect it. Because I, for one, am definitely not going to be using Gamora's MCU costume if I cop Guardians of the Galaxy the game. I very much like her standard outfit. Yeah, as far as next week, I think Loki is going to meet up with Sylvie, learn that her name is Sylvie, and we'll get a look probably at her backstory and maybe learn more about her motivations and why she chose what she did. And then we'll of course have the angle of the TVA chasing down both of them, trying to apprehend and probably erase them, because they're probably assuming that Loki betrayed them and joined forces with the variant. But I'm definitely excited because next week is the halfway mark and things look very interesting. I can't wait to see what kind of trouble she caused. Next week will be a good week with new updates. Oh, for Avengers, the Mega Hive, no. The OLT, yeah. Do I think Kang will show up in the show? Actually, I very much think Kang is going to show up in the show. I think so. At the end, near the end of episode 2, Liam, we found out that the agent that Sylvie kidnapped and was manipulating and torturing, apparently told her where to find the timekeepers, which is interesting that the Minutemen know where to find the timekeepers, but they haven't actually seen them. But apparently she knows now where they are, or supposedly are. So I think we'll see Sylvie and or Loki go to confront, probably both. Sylvie will say that she's planning on going to the timekeepers to take them out, and Loki will tag along. And I think they're going to find out that the timekeepers aren't running the TVA, it's Kang. So that might be a cliffhanger for, I don't think it'll be a cliffhanger for next week, but maybe the week after or closer to the end. You know, whether it's this Loki who created Sylvie or Loki from the future. I don't know. I don't know what angle they're going to take with Sylvie's origin story. If it turns out to be Sylvie, in the comics, they settled. She was given power by Loki when the Asgardians settled in Oklahoma. But in the MCU, we don't know if there could have been a timeline where this happened. So that's definitely possible. They use that origin, but we know Loki never settled on Earth after Asgard was destroyed. Loki was killed in space by Thanos. So, but there's definitely, since there are different variants and versions of Loki, we can definitely assume that there's potentially a timeline where he survived after the destruction of Ragnarok and essentially gave Sylvie her power. So that's definitely a possibility. But it would definitely be a different version of Loki, because we do know there are a lot of different variants of Loki that they seem to pop up a lot. So it's definitely possible that one of the variants gave her power and told her about the TVA. Yeah, she seems surprised about him trying to take over the TVA, only in that she thought it was such a stupid idea that she like dismissed a long time ago. That's kind of the vibe I got from her when Loki told her about the plan to take over the TVA. It's like she to me it was more like, why? I thought you were supposed to be smart. Why are you trying to run the TVA? Do you think the TVA could appear in one of the films? It's definitely possible. So far the TV shows to this point haven't really crossed over with the films at all, but that was when the Marvel shows were on Netflix and the other was on ABC and Hulu. So now that they're on Disney Plus and we know for a fact that the events of the shows now are going to have direct impacts on the films. They basically confirmed this with WandaVision and now Loki. So now I think it's definitely possible that we'll see stuff from the TV shows pop up in the movies. But that said, I think by the end of the season, the TVA are going to be destroyed. That's what I think. In the end, I think the TVA are going to be destroyed, and the multiverse is going to be thrown into chaos, and I think Kang will be involved. That's my prediction. So probably won't see the TVA in the films, but there'll probably be references to the TVA if we see Loki or Kang again. We could definitely see some TVA references, but I don't think they'll survive this. And no one else knows who the TVA are by design, so I doubt we'll see them. But there could be a reference for sure. But I would be very surprised if the TVA is intact at the end of the season. Multiverse War. You really think Madam Web is coming? I hope so, but I have my doubts. You think the show would directly link to Doctor Strange too? Oh, for sure. I think Falcon and Winter Soldier will have very little impact on the MCU, at least the stuff in the immediate future, but they pretty much set up WandaVision and Loki as being by far the most important MCU shows, and directly setting up the events of Phase 4 for sure. Wanda becoming a Nexus being, and Loki, of course, triggering a multiversal war. So for sure, they're definitely gonna be the two shows that probably will have the most impact on Doctor Strange. You think Falcon and Winter Soldier set up Dark Avengers? Yeah, but compared to what set up in WandaVision and Loki, it's not going to really be all that relevant, I think. That's why Shang-Chi I thought was a strange choice to make as a movie, because they're setting up Phase 4 to have these crazy stakes, you know, multiversal war. You got the Eternals, some new supposedly super powerful beings. You got Wanda becoming a Nexus being. You got this TVA. They established, you know, all this crazy stuff, and then you have Falcon and Winter Soldier and Kung Fu. Like, it's weird. Is Rune King Thor too powerful for the MCU? I think regular Thor is too powerful for the MCU. That's why they not only nerfed his power in the initial movies, but they made him a joke in Endgame and allowed both Wanda and Brie Larson to leapfrog him in power for no discernible reason. I think any male character that's super powerful is too powerful for the MCU at this point, based on their direction, unless they're a villain, and the villain will inevitably be defeated. Did Doctor Strange appear in the Loki show? He could, presumably because Loki is also a white male. Kevin Feige won't have a problem with it, like he did in Wanda. So it's definitely possible we'll get the cameo that we were supposed to get in WandaVision in Loki instead. That would be pretty cool. As long as we get one. But yeah, that still annoys the hell out of me that we could have got a Doctor Strange cameo in WandaVision, but it got written out because Kevin Feige doesn't like white males. Like, come on, bro. What is this garbage that you're doing to the MCU? What is this? So hopefully, because Loki is starring a white male, they won't have as much of a problem of Doctor Strange stepping in at some point, especially if they're going to literally start a multiversal war and drive everything into chaos. You would think Doctor Strange, since he's obviously going to be in the middle of all this, would appear at some point. If he was supposed to be in WandaVision, then that means he's aware of all the stuff that's going on. So at some point you would think he would show up like, hey, what's up? Kevin needs a stir and talking to. Kevin needs to, if Kevin actually believes that, he needs to step down. If he's just doing politics just because he thinks it's trendy and important, then somebody needs to tell him that people don't want to see that. People don't want that. People want good stories. They don't care about your college campus politics. We just want good stories. Do I think Michael B will be the new BP? I do not think Killmonger is going to come back to life. I don't. I mean, it's possible with all this, the multiversal shenanigans. They could take advantage of that and either bring in an alternate version of T'Challa to fill in, or they can bring in an alternate version of Michael B. Jordan and Killmonger that's not as, I guess, militant, and have him step in. But yeah, I think he remains dead. I think Killmonger remains dead and they find someone else to take over. I think people are overthinking it. Like, there are a lot of interesting ideas, but I think the simplest explanation, based on the decision making that Disney has made in the past, is the probably likely outcome, which is that Shuri takes over the mantle of Black Panther, and we have a female Black Panther to match the firepower of Captain Marvel, the new female Hawkeye, the new female Iron Man, and the new female Thor. I think the future of the MCU is female. I think that's the simplest explanation, is that Shuri is just going to be Black Panther, and they're going to have a nearly all female Avengers. Michael B. Jordan's alternate version could be Michael Jordan. Michael J. Jordan. That's the Michael Jordan that we all know. Michael J. Jordan. Yeah. I'm just seeing the posters now. Imagine new Avengers movie. Shuri as Black Panther. Ironheart as Iron Man. The new Iron Man is Ironheart. Wanda is Wanda. Brie Larson, Captain Marvel. Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan. Monica Rambeau. And She-Hulk, with Kate Bishop as Hawkeye. They're gonna bring Cardi B in after she does Fast and Furious. Oh gosh. Yeah, I think that by the end, the only males left in the MCU are going to be Sam Wilson as Black Captain America and Doctor Strange, just because of how popular he is. Maybe Tom Holland Spider-Man. I don't remember Cardi B being in Fast and Furious at all. but I hope she never shows up in the MCU. Oh, she's in it. She does have an appearance in the new Fast and the Furious. Cardi B meets Vin Diesel. Yep, she's in the new Fast and the Furious, apparently. Weird, but okay. Yeah, she's in Fast 9. Go figure. I mean, it makes sense in the Fast and the Furious. It's a ridiculous franchise. But MCU, let's hope not. Trying to see some Easter eggs of Galactus as heralds. Yeah, I don't think we're going to do Galactus in the MCU this time around. I'm hoping, but I'm not convinced. They're bringing in Fantastic Four, but I think they're going to go away from both the Galactus angle and the Doctor Doom angle. I think they're going to try something different. Have you missed every Fast and the Furious except the worst one? That's funny. You skipped every Fast and the Furious movie except the worst Fast and the Furious movie. That's pretty funny. I've surprisingly seen every single one of them. including Calvin and Hobbes, the Fast and the Furious spinoff. You thought Tokyo Drift was the best one? Yikes. No. First of all, the Paul Walker Fast and Furious is the best one. Get it right. Second of all, Tokyo Drift was awful. First two were gas, and then they just get progressively stupid. I recommend checking out the first two. And Calvin and Hobbes and Shaw was pretty whatever. But the first two Fast and Furious ones are the best. All right, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. This was a good stream. Had a lot of fun. Once again, great episode of Loki. I'll be back streaming Marvel's Avengers tomorrow. Usual time, 1 p.m. Hopefully there's something cool in the marketplace. Otherwise, same deal. Run some dailies, run the priorities, play with the subs, run the Mega Hive, the usual deal. And then next week, we'll finally have some content. So I'm looking forward to it. All right, guys, take care. I'm gonna go eat my dinner and watch a bad, scary movie. Still think Xenoverse is trash. All right, guys.